there. So how are you today? In this video, I wanted to expand a little bit more on changing your past, because it's such a big thing to be able to look back at your past with love and gratitude, no matter what you've been through, and to be able to see the bigger picture. It's such a beautiful place to be in, to be able to change your past. What changes, now that I think of it, it's not the events. They can't be changed, and they were chosen deliberately for you to have the experiences you had. So the events is not what we're changing when we go back. It's you that changes. You change from being the victim to being the love that you are, the love you have always been, and the love you will always be. In this video, what I wanted to talk about is when we stay in this victim mode, we give away our power to these beings. Imaginary, right? It's an illusion, but you give away your power. You're powerless because you experienced in your childhood that you were powerless to them, to whatever it is that they did, whether it was domestic abuse, whether it was sexual violence, whether it was whatever it was. Physical abuse, like in my case, where I'm being smacked and yelled at all the time. That's physical abuse. No matter what you've been through, all of those situations make you feel powerless. Someone else has power over you. These big people, these adults, they have power over you because you're so little. You can't do anything. They're bigger than you. What can you do physically? Nothing but put up with it, right? This is from the point of view of a little one compared to the grown-up. We're the victim. We are powerless. But when you grow up and you're now the grown-up and you keep looking back at those events as the victim, you are still powerless. You're giving away your power to these bigger people, to these giants, because as a child they look like giants, adults. They do. I remember my mum coming at me and I'd be like, she's huge. Every time you put yourself back in victim mode of why did they do this to me, or how could they do this to me, you're giving away your power and you're making yourself powerless. And that's what you came to experience. That was exactly what you came to experience. What does it feel like to be powerless? I don't know, because outside of this place, I am power. I'm all of it. I am infinite. I'm an infinite being. I'm endless. I never end. I go on and on and on. After this lifetime, there'll be another and then another and then another. This is probably my 1000th lifetime. We go on forever. We never end. We are creators. Whatever we focus on, we create. That's how powerful we are. And as you get better at becoming more self-aware and becoming more spiritually awakened, you become better at manifesting, of showing yourself how powerful you are as a creator. That whatever you put your mind to, it just happens, it just appears. But to be in that place, we need to let go of all this other stuff. And we're at the beginning, we're trying to get rid of it. This is where the videos are starting. We're trying to give you back your power. And you can't do that as long as you keep focusing on others and being the victim. You can't do that. You can't take back your power until you stop focusing on others and you start looking at yourself. And the moment you make that decision, the moment you've had enough of being the victim, because that's what happened to me. I was done with feeling that way. I was done with being the victim. I was just done. I'd had enough. when you get to that point where you've had enough, is when you can start looking at you. And you can start looking at your patterns. Because until you start looking at your patterns can't change until you actually start looking at what you're creating. And one of the biggest examples for me was I could still be yelling at my daughter now because my mum was still yelling at me when I was 12. You know, she was still going off the handles, you know, by the time I was 12. She was still, I think she was still smacking me at that stage. You know, it wasn't until after I started high school, a couple of years after I started high school, that she kind of stopped, you know, because I was just too grown up by that stage and I would run off and I would not, she'd have to run after me and she couldn't keep up. So I would just keep running around in circles and I would tire her out. You know, this is actually how it all finished, how it all ended in the end. But what I'm trying to share here is when my daughter was born, and I found myself yelling at her, if I hadn't have stopped and looked at why I was yelling at her, like really looked at it, why am I yelling at her? It has nothing to do with her. It was my frustration with my financial situation. I felt that how do I explain it? I didn't know how to cope with that situation. I didn't know how to work out the finances. So I wasn't always behind and I wasn't always being called up by the bank, you know, because my mortgage is behind and all of that. That's quite stressful when you're in that mode all the time, you know, that you don't know how to handle money. So that was my frustration at the time. And every time I yelled at her was a moment where I had just received a notice that something was behind and I hadn't paid for it. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to pay for it because I was always behind. And when you fall behind, it's hard to get back on top of it. You kind of just stay behind. You just get used to always being behind and people hassling you for money. But it's stressful. So it wasn't until I tied all that together, you know, that, oh, I'm yelling at her because I'm having trouble with my finances and I can't get on top and I don't know how to do this. I've never been taught. No one's ever sat me down and, you know, not even at school. We didn't even learn how to do this properly at school. So, you know, at that point, by the time she turned 4, I went to see a financial counselor. I sat down with all my paperwork and I said to him, okay, what do I need to do? Because I'm done with this situation. I'm done doing this. I'm done being behind. I'm done with the bank calling me every second day that I'm late, I'm behind, I'm whatever, you know, all the bills, the electricity would always be, you know, emails or calls, you know, you're behind. And I was done doing that. That's what I mean. When you've had enough of a situation, you will do what you can to change it. You will get the help that you need. For me, that was, you know, seeing a financial counselor and him sitting me down and explaining to me how to do this, how to budget, how to get on top of all of it. You know, and in the end, once he put it all together, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I just didn't know how to balance it. I didn't know how to do it properly, you know. So, you know, this was like, oh, how long ago now? About 8 years ago. And we've been fine ever since. You know, once I figured out how to, that wasn't a problem. So I didn't have that frustration anymore. So I didn't need to yell at her. But my yelling stopped because I started to look at why I was yelling at her. Why? Not just, oh, every time I get frustrated, I'll just keep yelling at her, you know, because that's how I grew up. My mum never looked at why she was yelling at me. She just kept doing it, you know. So somewhere along the line, you have to decide, well, you know, am I happy with this situation? Do I want this to continue or do I want it to change? You know, do I want to keep living like this? Is this something that I'm satisfied with? I'm happy with it? Is it something you can change? The first step is always to look at you. Look at you. Look at why you're yelling. Look at why you're angry. Look at why you're frustrated. Look at you. Look at why you say the things you say. When you say you're not good at something, you're not good enough. Why? Why are you not good enough? Because no matter how much they told you you're not good enough in your childhood, you are the one ultimately that makes the decision that you're not good enough. Here's an example, okay? Say throughout your childhood, I'll use myself as an example, because going all through school, I was really good at school, right? And I did really well with tests. I knew how to read before I even started kindy. So I was like a bookworm, and I spent all of school in the library reading books. I just loved learning. I loved reading books. So I was really good at school. So to me, it was like if someone decided to come up to me and tell me I was stupid, I'd be looking at them like, what? What's wrong with you? You know, I'd be like, why would you say that? You don't know me, you know? So there's certain things, I'm sure, that if someone told you now, you'd be like, no, I'm not that. That's not true. That's not who I am. But we make decisions when we're little that, oh, then I must be. You know, with all the smacking and all the yelling, I took on that I mustn't be a good girl, because if I was a good girl, she wouldn't be smacking me. And yet I wasn't a troublemaker. I was, you know, always reading. I had glasses by the time I was 10 from reading so much, you know, reading glasses. So, you know, eventually you take it on, you decide. And you came to have that experience of whatever it was. You're not good enough in whatever way or whatever decision you made about yourself, but you decide. You decided. Because if I was to tell you right now, right, this is how beliefs go. If I was to tell you right now that the sun is not out and it's not coming out and it's never going to come out again, are you going to believe me? You know, there are certain things that you know the moon's going to be out at nighttime. You know the sun's going to be out in the morning. You know these things. And no matter what someone else tells you, you're not going to believe that the sun won't be there tomorrow, because without that sun, we can't exist. The world would perish very quickly without the sun. So there are things within your heart already that you know for sure that are true. And the one truth that we're trying to get you to hear is that you are love. Above everything else, above the not being good enough, above the not being worthy. And notice I don't say you are loved, you are love. You are love. You are the beautiful energy that is in everything, that love. The love that created that sun, the love that created the beautiful trees that give you the oxygen every day, that love is what you are made of. You are made of one and the same. And no matter what you believe about yourself, you are love. You always were and you always will be. And that is what we're trying to get back to. Once we get back to that love, that past no longer has any effect on you. Yeah, the events happened. That's life. That's what we're here for, the experiences. But it no longer affects you, because you are standing so strong in the love that you are. And you know fully within your heart the love that you are. And none of that defines you. None of that. None of what happened. That is not who you are. They're just things that you went through as a human being. That was your human experience that you came to have. They're not who you are. Only you can define yourself. If you decide, well, that's what happened to me, so that's who I am. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. You decide for yourself. You choose. Always. All right, my darlings, you are the love. I am the love. Say it to yourself. I am the love. The same love that created the beautiful stars. The same love that created the rivers and the oceans and the seas. The same love that created the mountains. All of it created you as well. Right, my darlings? I love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And I'll see you in the next video, okay? Bye for now.